streets of the unknown, where the logic breathes and the data flows. We question what the code has shown, and spark the light when no one goes. Clearly learned voices collide.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to navigate through some really complex and honestly pretty disturbing territory.
Yeah, definitely. We're diving deep into these major allegations, trafficking, abuse surrounding two huge names, Sean Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we've gathered, well, a whole stack of sources. We're talking legal docs, official reports, journalism, public reaction, everything we could find.
Right. The goal is to really unpack all of that for you, pull out the key insights, the important details.
Our mission today is, well, to try and understand the darker side of these cases, look into the really strange legal twists and turns.
And maybe see if there are any connections, between these two stories that maybe aren't immediately obvious.
We do need to say up front, though, the stuff we're discussing today is pretty heavy.
Yeah, definitely a trigger warning. Some of this content might be upsetting for some listeners, so please be mindful of that.
And one more crucial point. These are active legal situations. Things are still unfolding.
Absolutely. So what we talk about today is based on what we know now. By the time you hear this, there could be significant updates. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, so with all that said, let's start by really getting into the Sean Diddy Combs story. He's this massive figure in hip-hop, but his legacy now, it's overshadowed by all these incredibly serious accusations.
It really is. And his rise is, it's a classic story of ambition, almost relentless drive. Started super young, right?
Yeah, just 12 years old, apparently negotiating paper routes from older kids. That tells you something about his mindset early on.
Totally. That hunger, that desire to control and expand, you see it throughout his whole career. It wasn't just music. It was business, lifestyle, everything.
It was kind of astonishing when you map it out. Paper routes to, well, a global mogul. And his impact on hip-hop was just undeniable and fast.
Right. 1992, he's executive producing Mary J. Blige's first album, What's the 411?
Huge. Then, 93, he gets fired from Uptown Records. But does he slow down? Nope. Founds Bad Boy Records.
And immediately, almost instantly, lands that huge deal with Arista Records. That showed serious strategic thinking right out of the gate.
Then comes 94, Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die. That album just cemented Bad Boy's place,
Absolutely iconic. But even then, there were dark clouds. Just 2 months after Biggie's album dropped, Tupac gets shot.
And he accuses Combs and Biggie of knowing about it beforehand, which they always denied fiercely.
Yeah, denied vehemently. And then, of course, Tupac's tragic death in 96. It's a complicated, dark history woven in right from the start.
But purely on the music and business side, Diddy was setting trends, changing the game. Like Craig Mack's Flava in Yair in 94.
Oh, yeah, that track hitting the top of the Hot Rap Songs chart was big, but Diddy pushed it further.
Exactly. He had this knack for blending that street sound with pop appeal and pushed it into the pop top 10. That hadn't really happened before, not like that.
It was a huge moment. It basically signaled hip-hop's arrival in the mainstream, setting the stage for it to become, the dominant genre, influencing everything by 2019.
And his ambition wasn't just music. He openly said he wanted to influence, every part of a consumer's life.
Which he kind of did. Forbes named him the top earner among celebrities in 2017, $130 million in 1 year. Just staggering.
And he branched out, right? Philanthropy, education. Launched that charter school in Harlem in 2016.
Yeah, and donated $1 million to Howard University the same year. So the public image was the successful, powerful, even community-minded guy.
But as we often see, even while he was building this empire, there were incidents, early legal troubles that maybe looking back were bigger red flags than they seemed at the time.
For sure. In 1996, he got convicted for criminal mischief. Allegedly threatened a photographer with a gun.
Then much later, 2015, that arrest at UCLA over a confrontation involving his son. Assault charges, though they were dropped eventually.
Right, and these things, they cause ripples, but they didn't seem to stop his climb. He seemed pretty adept at navigating legal issues without lasting damage to his rep.
There was also that civil suit in 2017 from his chef, Cindy Rueda. Sexual harassment, retaliation claims. Settled quietly in 2019.
But the real turning point, the moment everything changed in the public eye, that was Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, November 2023.
That one hit differently. The accusations were incredibly serious rape, sex trafficking, physical abuse, just Brutal stuff.
And then came the video, May 2024. CNN releases that surveillance footage from 2016.
Ugh, that video, it was just undeniable. Showing him assaulting Ventura in that hotel hallway, kicking her, dragging her.
It was incredibly graphic and shocking, hard to watch. And her testimony added context, saying it happened when she tried to leave something called a freak-off.
And the settlement happened almost instantly the very next day, which raised eyebrows on its own.
Yeah, very fast. Ventura later testified it was for $20 million. And there were those allegations he tried to bribe hotel staff for the footage. That points to an immediate cover-up attempt.
If true, yeah. It suggests he knew how damaging it was. The public reaction was intense.
Oh, absolutely. You saw it reflected culturally, like with Kesha changing her TikTok lyrics.
Right, going from feeling like P. Diddy to eventually fuck P. Diddy during performances.
Yeah.
That wasn't just a lyric change. It felt like a cultural verdict almost.
It really captured the shift in mood. But the Ventura lawsuit, as huge as it was, turned out to be just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, the floodgates really opened after that. The accusations just kept expanding, leading eventually to that criminal indictment.
Exactly. That John Doe civil lawsuit in October 2024 was incredibly detailed. It didn't just target Combs, but a whole web of his company's bad boy entertainment holdings, Combs Global.
And the claim was that these companies weren't just businesses. They were allegedly used, like instrumentally, to assault, abuse, threaten hundreds of people.
Right. Through these sexual quid pro quo schemes,
Yeah.
basically, do this or your career is over, or worse. Demanding sexual acts for opportunities or even just basic professional courtesy.
And it got darker.
Right.
Allegations of drugging victims with GHB. They even included a picture of the alleged container in the lawsuit.
Yeah, really specific and disturbing. And the language they used to describe the Combs business, calling it an ongoing organization working for Combs' objectives.
It sounds like something out of an IRO case.
Pretty much. They listed alleged crimes like sex trafficking, forced labor, prostitution, narcotics, kidnapping, even arson, bribery, obstruction of justice. It painted a picture of a full-blown criminal enterprise.
And the threats allegedly attributed to him. Chilling stuff.
Incredibly chilling. Things like, this is what it takes to be famous, or what are you willing to do to become a star, and flat out perform this sexual act or else.
Plus, the more menacing ones. I make ends go missing. I make things go away. That creates an atmosphere of absolute terror, you know?
Absolutely. It speaks to extreme control and intimidation tactics allegedly being used systematically.
Then Dawn Richard from Danity Kane filed her suit in September 2024. That one focused a lot on the treatment within the group.
Right. Sexual harassment, inhumane treatment, denial of basic needs. She claimed they had to stay at his places, weren't given proper food, just peanut butter shakes while he ate full meals in front of them.
That's degrading.
Yeah.
And she also alleged violence.
Yeah. Gender-based physical violence, sexual assault, threats. She described him having uncontrollable anger, throwing things, laptops, albums, food flying into these frenzied, unpredictable rages.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
Living in fear of setting him off.
Exactly. And she also claimed labor trafficking, denying basic breaks, plus copyright infringement, saying she wasn't paid for her compositions. A whole pattern of alleged exploitation.
And specific sexual harassment, too.
Yeah.
Groping. Being ordered to perform sex acts.
Yes, those specific allegations were in there, too. It just kept coming. December 2024, that lawsuit accusing Combs and Jay-Z of raping a 13-year-old.
That one was dropped later, in February 2025, right?
Correct. But that same month, February 2025, more suits landed. Accusations of raping 3 men, sexual battery against a male employee, drugging and assaulting a woman.
Plus, the one from the 16-year-old babysitter in January 2025. At one point, weren't there reports of, like, over 40 lawsuits?
Yeah, the number was staggering. It painted this picture of alleged abuse on a massive scale. And all this, the sheer weight of the civil cases, eventually led to the criminal indictment in September 2024.
Racketeering, sex trafficking, transportation for prostitution, federal charges.
Big ones. Now, his defense team has consistently said he pleaded not guilty to everything.
Right, they framed the freak-offs as consensual, part of a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, denied using threats or his status to coerce anyone. His lawyer even called the relationship with Cassie a complicated love story, trying to reframe the narrative entirely.
Which brings us to some of the stranger aspects surrounding the legal case itself, like that lawyer withdrawing.
Oh, yeah, that was weird. The attorney filed a motion saying, and this is a direct quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue." That's a strong language for a lawyer to use publicly.
Really strong. What do legal folks make of that?
Well, speculation runs rampant, obviously. It could mean anything from the client insisting on lying under oath, or maybe the lawyer found out about plans for witness tampering, or just a complete breakdown where they couldn't ethically represent him anymore.
And there was that comment going around that this same lawyer represented Osama bin Laden.
Right, but somehow Diddy was a bridge too far. It led to speculation it must be something truly awful, maybe involving kids or the nature of the sexual assault allegations. It's just very unusual.
Definitely adds a layer of something. Then there's the whole free puff thing with Kanye West.
Bizarre. And that didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Kanye had been saying weird stuff back in 2021, calling Diddy a Fed DCI asset, claiming he cut deals to stay out of trouble.
Okay, that's out there.
Way out there. But then Candace Owens picked up on it, reposted the Cassie video, and basically said, see, Kanye was right, Diddy's protected.
And Kanye leaned into it with clothes and urging Trump to free him.
Yeah, February 2025. The Free Puff campaign, clothing collab, asking Trump to intervene. It's this weird mix of celebrity, politics, legal drama, and conspiracy theory all rolled into one.
Wild. So fast forward to the trial verdict, July 2, 2025. A split decision.
Right. Acquitted on the really heavy charges, sex trafficking, racketeering, but convicted on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
And he'd apparently turned down a plea deal earlier. That might have meant less time.
Reportedly, yeah. Which makes the conviction potentially riskier for him, sentencing-wise, though he was acquitted of the worst charges. It's a gamble that partly paid off, partly didn't.
So what does sentencing look like now?
Well, because he doesn't have prior federal convictions, he'd likely be in criminal history category 1. That means the starting point for sentencing guidelines is lower than it could be.
But still, federal prison is federal prison. A massive shock from his lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. 5 a.m. wake-ups, rigid schedules, mandatory work for pennies, monitored calls, plexiglass visits. It's a world away from luxury jets and mansions. A brutal reality check.
And the ripple effects go way beyond him personally. His businesses.
Huge impact. Morality clauses in contracts mean endorsement deals likely vanish. He could be barred from roles in public companies, banks might cut ties, assets could be frozen, forfeited. It's a financial implosion, potentially.
And his family. The kids growing up with that stigma, the public shame. It's devastating on a personal level, too.
Absolutely. It just makes you think about this whole idea of celebrity immunity and this reputational protection industry that seems to shield powerful people for so long.
It really does.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the incredibly complex saga of Sean Combs. Now let's pivot to Jeffrey Epstein, another name synonymous with power, mystery, and truly horrific allegations.
Yeah, Epstein is a whole different kind of enigma. His wealth itself was mysterious, right? He goes from being a high school teacher to a billionaire.
With almost no visible footprint in the financial world. Very unlike Combs, whose businesses were very public, Epstein operated in the shadows.
Totally. And a key move was relocating his firm to the U.S. Virgin Islands in '96. Big tax breaks, like 90% off federal income tax.
But he kept access to U.S. banking. Smart, in a cynical way. Creating a private haven, but keeping the infrastructure he needed.
And his company, J. Epstein and Company, founded in '88, claimed to only manage money for billionaires, but he kept them secret.
Except for one, Leslie Wexner, the Victoria's Secret guy.
Right. And Wexner gave Epstein power of attorney over his finances. That's extraordinary. It gave Epstein immense leverage, access, and another layer of secrecy.
His properties weren't just homes. They were allegedly central to the operation. That huge mansion in New York.
The private island, Little St. James Pedophile Island, as locals called it. The ranch in New Mexico, places in Paris, Florida. It was a network.
A network for what? The core allegations are just stomach churning.
Systematic sex trafficking of minors, directing others to abuse girls, using paid staff to recruit and procure victims, coercing them into this life.
And that private jet, the Boeing 727, the Lolita Express.
Nicknamed by Virgin Islands locals because they saw him arriving so often with girls who looked underage. It's horrifying how open it seemed to be in some ways.
And the theory isn't just that he abused them himself, but that he used them strategically.
That's a major part of the allegation, that he would lend girls to powerful men. Why? To gain favor, build connections, but also potential blackmail material.
Which connects to those reports about the media room in his New York place. Cameras everywhere.
Exactly. Claims of people monitoring pinhole cameras, watching private moments throughout the mansion. It suggests a deliberate effort to collect compromising information.
And those CDs found in his safe, labeled young name plus name.
Yeah. Epstein himself apparently hinted to a reporter, off the record, that he had dirt on powerful people, sexual stuff, drug use. It paints this picture of a meticulously planned blackmail operation alongside the abuse.
You can't talk about Epstein without talking about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Absolutely central. British socialite, his former partner, but allegedly much more than that, accused of being the primary recruiter, groomer, facilitator, even participant in the abuse.
Virginia Giuffre's testimony about her was devastating.
Incredibly powerful. Jeffrey said Maxwell literally taught her how to perform sex acts, how to be quiet, subservient, give Epstein what he wanted. Direct, hands-on grooming and complicity.
Maxwell was arrested July 2020, convicted December 2021. Multiple charges: conspiracy, transporting minors, sex trafficking conspiracy.
And sentenced June 2022 to 20 years in federal prison. A major conviction holding one of the key alleged figures accountable.
Though her team tried for a new trial, right?
Yeah.
Based on that juror issue.
Yeah, claiming a juror, Scotty David, hadn't disclosed being abused as a child on the questionnaire. The prosecution offered to drop perjury charges against Maxwell if the conviction stood, arguing it was better for the victims to have closure.
Now, one thing the public absolutely fixated on was the idea of an Epstein client list, this explosive list of powerful names.
Huge public fascination, endless speculation online. But the official word from the DOJ and FBI in July 2025 was, nope, no definitive client list was found, and they weren't releasing more files.
Which predictably just fueled more conspiracy theories, right? Accusations of a cover-up.
Exactly. Especially from some on the far right, claiming the government was protecting powerful people. But the reality is likely more mundane, if still unsettling.
Like, he probably didn't keep a neat burn book.
Probably not. The FBI almost certainly compiled internal lists of associates, potential co-conspirators based on their investigation. But it's not the single public list people imagined. And that idea of the list itself became a tool, to throw accusations around without proof.
Okay, which leads us to Epstein's death. August 2019, in federal custody. Still one of the most debated events in recent memory.
Absolutely. So he's arrested July 2019, put in MCC, New York. Moved to the Special Housing Unit, the SHU, because he's high profile.
Then he has that first incident, neck injuries, July 23rd, put on suicide watch.
But he denied being suicidal, was taken off watch, given a cellmate. Then comes August 9th, 2019. A lot happened that day.
What specifically?
Okay, first, his cellmate gets transferred out, completely moved out of the jail with all his stuff, leaving Epstein alone.
Even though the psych department said he needed a cellmate.
Exactly, and the SHU officers knew this directive. It was ignored or overridden somehow. He was left alone.
Also on August 9th, those court documents were unsealed, right? From the Jeffrey lawsuit against Maxwell.
Yes, about 2,000 pages. Lots of damaging info about Epstein, and importantly, naming more high-profile people allegedly connected to him. Huge news breaking just as he's left alone in his cell.
He made a weird phone call that day, too.
Yeah, unrecorded from the shower area, supposedly calling his mother, but a man answered. Just another strange detail in the timeline.
And the next morning, August 10th, 6:30 a.m., he's found hanging.
Correct. Official ruling. Suicide by hanging. Medical examiner, FBI, DOJ all concurred. Autopsy consistent with suicide. No defensive wounds, no drugs found. That's the official finding.
The circumstances, they just scream questions.
They really do. First, the security cameras. There were like 11 cameras in the SHU area, but the footage from the crucial period, unavailable. A malfunction that apparently started back on July 29th. No video evidence.
Convenient malfunction.
Yeah.
And the guards.
Tova Knoll and Michael Thomas. They admitted falsifying records, said they did the required checks and rounds every 30 minutes, but they hadn't.
So Epstein was basically unmonitored for hours.
From about 10:40 p.m. on August 9th until he was found at 6:30 a.m. the next day, completely unmonitored, despite being a high-profile inmate in the SHU who'd previously been on suicide watch.
And staffing was an issue, too. Guards overworked.
Definitely. Severe shortages. Officers doing double shifts, one guy working 24 hours straight. The Inspector General had flagged staffing problems at the Bureau of Prisons for years. It created an environment where neglect was almost inevitable.
And those guards who falsified records? What happened to them?
Charged criminally, but then got deferred prosecution agreements, charges eventually dismissed. Others involved in false paperwork weren't prosecuted at all, which for many felt like a lack of real accountability.
And the will. He changed his will just 2 days before he died.
Yes. Psychology staff later said that alone should have been a huge red flag, possibly triggering another suicide watch review, but they weren't told about it.
So even with the official suicide ruling, the Inspector General's own report slammed the Bureau of Prisons for negligence, misconduct, and outright job performance failures.
Absolutely. And stated clearly that these failures denied Epstein's victims the chance for justice through the criminal trial. That's a damning assessment, even while upholding the suicide conclusion. The questions just linger.
And those questions often veer into intelligence agency territory, these persistent rumors linking Epstein to spy agencies.
Right. It's a whole other layer of intrigue. That book, Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales, directly linked him to Israeli Mossad.
Based on who?
Primarily a former Israeli intelligence officer, Ari Ben-Menashe. The theory is that Epstein wasn't just acting for himself, he was an access agent, gathering compromise, blackmail material on powerful people for intelligence purposes.
And Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell.
Yeah.
He had alleged intelligence ties too, right? Going way back.
He did. Alleged links to Israeli intelligence were part of his story for decades. So that provides a potential channel or context for these theories involving Ghislaine and Epstein.
Virginia Giuffre even mentioned an intelligence blackmail operation online, didn't she?
She did. And then you have Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney, during Epstein's lenient 2008 plea deal, later Trump's labor secretary.
What did he say?
Reportedly, he told people back then that he was warned Epstein belonged to intelligence, and the case was above his pay grade. A stunning admission, if true.
Wow. And even William Burns, now CIA director, met with Epstein multiple times after leaving government.
Apparently so. Reportedly hoping Epstein could help him transition into the private sector. It just adds to the pattern of Epstein having access and connections in very high, very sensitive places.
And the sensitivity around U.S.-Israel relations makes these Mossad allegations particularly charged hard to discuss openly.
Exactly. One former CIA officer was quoted saying the intelligence community doesn't like to touch these kinds of theories. It remains murky, fueling speculation.
Now, the unsealed documents did name names, lots of them. But it's crucial to be clear, being named isn't the same as being accused of wrongdoing.
Absolutely vital distinction. Bill Clinton, for example, mentioned. A witness testified Epstein said, Clinton likes them young. Clinton denies everything illegal, says he hadn't interacted with Epstein for years, but the flight logs show him on the Lolita Express 26 times, sometimes reportedly without his Secret Service.
Okay, Donald Trump.
His name appears, but no accusations of wrongdoing in the files. Story is he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago after an incident involving someone's daughter. He called Epstein a terrific guy years ago, but later said they fell out 15 years prior. Named. He settled that civil suit with Virginia Giuffre in 2022 over her allegations of assault when she was 17. He still denies it.
And Stephen Hawking. That was a shocker.
Yeah, mentioned in an email from Epstein to Maxwell. Epstein suggesting a reward to anyone who could disprove allegations against Hawking, including participating in an underage orgy on the island. Just bizarre and widely disbelieved. But it was in the documents.
Michael Jackson, too.
Seen at Epstein's home by a witness, but she specified she didn't massage him. Others named by Giuffre included Glenn Dubin, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Richardson, Marvin Minsky, George Mitchell, Jean-Luc Brunel. Many strongly denied the claims. It's a complex web of names and accusations.
So stepping back and looking at both Combs and Epstein, it's fascinating and disturbing how these two very different figures, from music and finance, end up having these overlapping themes in their stories.
It really is striking. You start drawing parallels, and they raise these huge, uncomfortable questions about power, privilege, and how the system works or doesn't work.
The most obvious overlap is just the core allegation, right? Sex, trafficking, abuse of power.
Exactly. Both cases are fundamentally about powerful men allegedly using their status, wealth, and influence to systematically exploit vulnerable people, often young people, through sex trafficking and abuse. It's the same horrific pattern, different settings.
And the language used legally, that criminal enterprise label applied to Combs' business operations.
It echoes how Epstein operated, not just as an individual, but allegedly using his network, his employees, his resources, his whole setup in concert with others to commit these crimes. The business itself becomes the tool of abuse.
Then the blackmail angle. Epstein's alleged cameras and dirt files.
Mirrors accusations that Combs kept incriminating evidence from his parties to use as leverage. It's that same alleged tactic. Weaponizing secrets not just of victims but of other powerful people to maintain control and ensure silence. It suggests a very calculated approach to impunity.
And the intelligence theories, it's almost uncanny.
It really is. Kanye claiming Diddy is a Fedi CIA asset, directly paralleling the Mossad theories around Epstein. Why do these specific kinds of conspiracies attach themselves to these figures? It probably says a lot about public distrust of both extreme power and official institutions.
And the elusive client list idea. No definitive list found for Epstein, according to the FBI. Similar situation with Diddy, lots of names rumored online, but not substantiated in filings.
Right. And that idea of the hidden list becomes powerful in itself. It lets speculation run wild, filling the information vacuum, turning rumor into perceived reality for many.
And that one concrete link, Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, being a lead prosecutor in both cases.
Yeah, that's a specific notable connection in the federal pursuit of both men. Quite a coincidence, if nothing else.
Finally, that narrative you mentioned, the unstoppable predator.
Yeah, the idea that Diddy's alleged behavior escalated because of his privilege, turning him into something more dangerous. It mirrors how Epstein seemed to operate with total impunity for so long, protected by his wealth, connections, and that reputational protection industry. Unchecked power enabling escalating alleged harm.
Which forces us to look at privilege, celebrity, and the system itself. How does this happen? How can people get away with so much, allegedly, for so long?
Well, the sources point to the obvious. Extreme wealth buys cover-ups, legal firepower, and creates that sense of untouchability. There's also the theory that immense power can just corrode empathy, make people the worst version of themselves because consequences don't seem to apply.
And the entertainment industry context for Diddy, described as extremely abusive in some sources, a normalization of bad behavior.
Possibly. And that combines with the reputational protection industry, the PR people, lawyers, enablers who actively work to suppress negative stories and protect the powerful. It delays accountability, sometimes for decades.
Making it incredibly hard for victims to come forward. They face disbelief, threats, humiliation.
Exactly. Especially when things like drugging or trauma might affect memory, making their accounts easier to attack legally. The power imbalance is just immense.
And even when things do come out, the legal outcomes can feel unsatisfying. Epstein's 2008 deal, Diddy's split verdict.
It makes you question if the system delivers justice proportionally. Does wealth buy a different standard of accountability? It's a deeply troubling question.
And the systemic failures, like in Epstein's death, the negligence, the misconduct, show cracks in the system itself.
Right. Those failures didn't just allow him to die. They explicitly denied victims their day in court, according to the OIG. That points to problems far bigger than just one or two individuals.
So, thinking bigger picture. What's the impact on industries, on public trust? We see these huge waves of conspiracy theories online.
Yeah, and that's dangerous. It's easy to slide from questioning official narratives to just implicating anyone associated, based on rumor, not evidence. When the public doesn't feel they have the real story, speculation fills the void, often in damaging ways.
But maybe there's a positive side. Forcing industries like music to confront their darkest secrets.
Hopefully. These cases might force a reckoning with behavior that's been tolerated or ignored for too long. But the bigger question remains, what does it mean when even video evidence, like the Cassie tape, doesn't lead to immediate, unequivocal condemnation or accountability in all circles, when powerful figures can still spin narratives?
It really makes you wonder about power, justice, and how information works, or doesn't work, in our world today.
Exactly. How much is shaped by influence versus truth?
We certainly covered a lot of ground today, wading through some very dark and complex material on Sean Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein. We've traced their paths, the allegations, the bizarre legal twists.
And seen these disturbing common threads: abuse, power, the struggle for accountability against immense influence. It's clear these aren't just tabloid stories. They touch on fundamental issues in our society.
They really force you to look at how celebrity, wealth, and systemic flaws intersect, to try and understand power not just in the headlines, but in its hidden operations.
And they underscore how crucial it is to try and separate fact from speculation, especially when information is incomplete or contested. It's a real challenge.
So here's a final thought we want to leave you with. In this age where information and misinformation fly so fast, especially around huge cases like these, how do we make sure we're actually understanding the power dynamics and the justice system at play, not just reacting to the noise?
And maybe more importantly, what steps need to be taken by institutions, by us, to ensure that justice isn't dependent on status, to make sure these patterns of alleged abuse enabled by power are finally broken for good? Something to think about.